Howdy, everybody. Bob Tallman for No Spin Rodeo. No politics, no BS, just hard-hitting news and rodeo commentary from two of the most trusted sources in our sport. Kendra Santos, Tommy Joe Lucia. Listen up. Here we go.
Welcome to Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're here with No Spin Rodeo, episode 12. Thank you to all you no spinners that aren't in Nevada with us and are listening to us. It's our Sunday edition. Things are starting to level out. How are you guys today?
I think we're all just kind of hitting our stride and on caffeine and adrenaline. We know we're just putting our heads down and rocking on.
Yeah. For us, Greg, you can probably comment, most of the landmines we've stepped on at this point, right?
Yes.
Big problem.
Don't say that.
At least in our world.
That's when you invite another hand grenade, but anyway.
Yeah, well, that's probably true. So, yeah, and then now you kind of settle in, and then you hit the point in the middle where you're kind of looking for the light at the end. But it's been good. It's been exciting. We've had great guests on the show that have walked by. And everything's been fun. Tell me a little bit about each of your last 24 hours.
Well,
the personal stuff.
It all runs together for me because we'll get into it when we start talking about the bareback riding, but there doesn't seem to be a line between my professional and personal life most of the time. And when we start talking about Rocker Steiner, it's like on the personal side, my phone has gone off with people like Ty Murray and Joe Beaver wanting to talk to me about, Rocker Steiner. But we'll get to that in a minute. I just, on a personal and professional side, I feel, my last 24 hours had a lot to do with Stetson Wright.
Yeah.
And he was on our Rodeo Deep Dive live show on the Cowboy Channel yesterday. We had a great show about rerides that spun off from No Spin Rodeo. And Tuff Heedham and Josh Frost and Stetson had an amazing conversation and interaction about, oops, should I or shouldn't I have? Most of the time, bottom line with those kinds of guys, they don't have any regrets because they're going to go down trying to win first. So that,
Yeah.
But Stetson, so let's just say it. So he showed up at this rodeo knowing that, he showed up, he felt being very optimistic that he was at 70% after pulling his right hamstring November 5th at the Wilderness Circuit Finals. And like he told me yesterday, when it happened, it didn't hurt instantly, but he said his knee slid up against the bull's hump is what happened. It was in the second round at the circuit finals, and he said that happens all the time. But then he heard what sounded like elastic snapping, and then by the time he hit the ground and could feel things, he couldn't feel anything. It was like his leg was paralyzed, and it was really scary, and he said he couldn't walk for 2 or 3 days.
I saw it. I saw him at the ground.
So, go ahead.
No. I'm
just saying he said he did everything known to modern man in medicine to try to rehab. He's like, I ate like a saint. I only would drink water. They were so pleased with how fast I could come back, and he thought that he could cowboy tough it out and just gut it out, and if he could get it out, he'd still be here. But here's the deal. He basically got slung and slammed in both events the first night. And, I don't know if everybody really caught on. That's, it wasn't Stetson. And then he tried in round 2. He got on his bronc. He can't gut this one out. I said yesterday, this is like not just a hand tied behind your back, but like trying to race a horse in the Kentucky Derby that has 3 legs. Like he can't. I asked him, was this, and I talked to Tandy Freeman last night before the rodeo. I'm like, is this a case where, play with pain, or is it a case of risking further injury? And that was a very gray line, but ultimately Stetson decided he's going to go for it because that's who he is. But it's very apparent after 3 attempts, he doesn't have the physical. He can't physically do it, so he's out for the rest of the rodeo, and that's huge. And because of the regular season he had, he has built up such a lead. He will surely win the all around, but the lead he came in with in the bull riding is going away fast, and
he won't.
No, he won't, and he knows it. And you know what he told me yesterday that I thought was really cool? I'm like, so why haven't you said anything? He hadn't said anything about showing up hurt. And he said, because if it didn't go my way and it wasn't going to work and I couldn't keep going, I don't want me being hurt to take anything away from the guys who do win it all here. And I thought, that is pretty cool, right?
Yeah. Well, in looking at from afar, and this may not be exact, and piecing together what he's told you and some of your good stuff on your social and content, it looked to me like he knew he wasn't 100%. He admitted that. But I think somewhere in his mind, he thought, I'll ride around this, not just the pain. So it's interesting to me that if you kind of watch the outs, I don't know this. Pain is surely an issue, but also just the fact that he doesn't have the strength. he can't, and that injury, groins, hamstrings, you don't tape them up. So Adriano Moraes at the PBR World Finals has his muscle completely torn off of his bicep. Like, it's just flopping there. But they were able to assist a little bit with tape and stuff, and he was able in that case, right, to figure out a way to ride without that normal strength. And I think Stetson thought, maybe I can figure out a way to adapt in the moment. The pain, I think for all those guys, the pain I'll deal with.
Right.
But can I do it? And I'll tell you, when he hit the ground last night in the bronc riding, it was almost like a billboard in my mind of his mind going, well, that answers it. I can't
game
ride
over
around this.
for this rodeo, which that just kills someone like Stetson Wright. The thing is, like, he said after the first round, he's like, I'm just saying, he guesstimated, that he showed up about 70%, which I think was more than generous, because I think in hindsight he'd probably change that number. But he said, on opening night, like, I let fear set in instead of let winning set in. And he said, I figure I'm 75% now, but if I went around, I bet I feel like 100.
Right. Right.
That's just his mentality, like, never say die. But now this would just be silliness to continue.
Well, just because I think he realizes that physically, pain, no pain, all of the elements aren't there for him to be able to ride.
When
right?
you have no chance of winning, and you could literally risk dying when you have zero chance of winning, it's just the math is pretty straightforward. You have to sit it out, which is really a gut punch for Stetson Wright, but he will be back. And I'm saying if we have $1 million cowboy coming, it's most likely Stetson Wright in 2024. So
yeah, well, and it shows that the cowboy tough mentality does have a point where they use their head, right? Because you could be over the top cowboy tough and say, I'm going to take my animal every time and maybe get lucky. And so I'm glad to see, right, that prevailing thought won. It hurts me to see a good human get emotional and know that this year, right? But you know what? He had a good year. If you look at the rights, he'll be a good ambassador. And, I read something about, well, maybe in 7 or around 8. Listen, I just don't think with this injury.
No, he's already declared he's done.
Okay.
And so this is not a case of sitting out 2 rounds and coming back. He's already doctor's released for the rest of the rodeo. And that, But, another guest on that show yesterday was Tuff Hedeman. And somewhat reminiscent. If we go back to 1995 again, Tough gets his face obliterated at the PBR finals by Bodacious, and we both would have bet our homes that Tough Hedeman would never turn out at the NFR. But when he drew Bodacious and had promised his son Lane that he would chicken out if he ever drew him again, and he stood on the back of the chute, let that bull go, tipped his hat to him. Tough had lost 30 pounds or something,
right.
Because that was the most gruesome thing I've ever witnessed. But anyway, sometimes it's the one and only play.
Right. Even for the tough guys. So, but it's hard to see a champ step back, but we see it in other sports, and that doesn't take anything away from his credibility. So big story. Everybody's talking about it. Maybe I can start getting over it now. So yeah, that's. I just like the kid, right? It's a little different, right? I mean, there are some contestants at the NFR that I wouldn't feel as bad about, right?
He's a great kid.
He's just a good kid. And so God bless him and his family. Hope he took it serious, getting better for here. And, so.
Yeah,
anyway.
Watch out for next year. He's going to be motivated to just stomp next year.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's got to figure out, he's got to figure out, if he isn't already doing this, and I don't know that he isn't, doing everything he can to understand that every day he gets a day older. And which comes with doing things to help preserve your body and continued success. So these things are all a part of the master plan, right? God's got it, and he'll learn from it and go on. So let's kind of run through the rounds and see where we're at. And since you're kind of our aficionado, you're the one with the media pass. I watch it on Cowboy Channel in my underwear eating a ham sandwich. So what you got?
Well, we have to kick it off with a back-to-back win for Rocker Steiner, which, 2 in a row for Rocker, but back to the personal, professional, whatever. So the morning after, yesterday morning, I talked to Ty Murray. And for those who don't know, very cool story, that the Spurs that Rocker rides were Larry Mahan's back in the 60s.
Yep.
And then Larry Mahan passed them on to Ty Murray when he was 13. And then when Rocker was 13, Ty, at the request of his world champion steer wrestler dad, Sid, Rocker decided, after being a world champion wakeboarder, that he wanted to be a world champion bareback rider. So he's been under the wing of Ty Murray, and Ty passed those spurs down to Rocker, which is really cool. And anyway, the conversation with Ty was not what you might expect. We weren't talking about, mechanics and, Rocker's riding so well. Instead, it was about, set your watch to it. Every time Rocker wins, half the people hate on him, publicly, and it's love-hate. So Ty's frustration is that, the irony that Ty brought up that I thought was really cool is he's like, everybody might not realize this, but in the 1960s, when Larry Mahan showed up with long hair,
Yep.
his shirt unbuttoned, a choker around his neck, and a furry hat, the good old boys weren't fur, and they were
Bobby
very,
Del Vecchio.
okay, and so because it's different, change is hard on most humans, but like Ty said, hey, in the end, Larry died a legend, but in the beginning, people were very hateful about his appearance and his style choices. And Ty's point is, he's like, when I started helping Rocker, he's a world champion wakeboarder with dreadlocks. Ty's as clean cut as they come. He's like, what's your point? Who cares how they choose to dress? And I also will say, somewhat surprising. If anybody's going to be not for it, it's my Oatberry boyfriend who's from Shakota, Oklahoma, steer wrestling capital of the world, where, it's good old boy country, and that's in the best sense of the word. But Oat rodeoed with Joe Beaver. Called me this morning on this subject. Also, he also rodeoed with contemporaries of Sid, and they both said, Sid's a great guy. He was out there rodeoing with us. It's like they don't give gold buckles away.
Yeah.
And so they were like, why in the world do we care how people wear their hair?
But I don't think it's all of it. That may be some of it. Okay, I think that's some of it.
You're talking about the F-bombs on camera last year. That did not go well. I understand that. I think he learned because I agree. I bet you we won't see that this year.
But I think it's a combination. Okay, this young man, no doubt, has had opportunities that some other bareback riders don't. He was trained correctly. They bought bareback horses for him that fit him. They have Ty Murray coaching him. They have the resources as a family to make sure that he had everything he needed to become a world champion. Now, that doesn't make you win 2 rounds, okay? So if you start to put the little pieces together, a little bit of jealousy, I'm sure there's a little bit of jealousy out there, the way he dresses, his youth, his original, he did win and stuff when he was a little young to handle it. I don't know if we've had this conversation, but when you look at Johnny Manziel, I compared him to kind of Manziel, right? You're talking about a great quarterback that was not at that point in his life mentally ready to handle his stardom. And what I'm happy to see as I watched Rocker at the buckle ceremony, I'm watching him. I'm watching him mature, right, in his presentation. He still wants to be Rocker. And to your point, there's nothing wrong with that. Be Rocker, wear what you want, do what you want, but you're at the same time, be conscious that there's a lot of people looking up to you and you're a professional.
Yes, and everybody should do you in a respectful line. And I do think, he did hit the highest heights and headlines as a kid, and he is maturing. He's maturing right in front of our eyes, right in front of a lot of cameras. Yep. But, the ability to be yourself, this is America.
It is America, and I agree, but we do have a culture. We have a culture that we believe in, right? It's why we hurt when UNLV gets hurt. And as long as you don't step past, right, the overall consensus of what the culture agrees with, right? You just have to be careful.
Okay, the Steiners don't put Stetson Wright and Ty Murray down for having short hair. Let me say this.
But that's not the part of the culture I'm talking about. It's just make sure that you can be wild, crazy, and as eccentric as you want, but make sure that you hold to the values, not the haircuts.
Yes.
The values of a cowboy.
But if people hated Rocker Steiner because he was like a cheater or something, then I would agree. But I mean, I'm not going to hate him because he has long hair, for heaven's sakes. I will say this too. I love this, what Ty said. Whatever about his hair, I like the way he's combing those bucking horses' mane with my spurs.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like you're saying that I'm opposite of you on this. I'm not. I'm just saying I think he's better represented himself as a whole to the things that are what I think critical to fitting in that legend category.
Well, me from back where I stand, he's learned that if he goes too far, the person he's going to hurt is himself.
Right.
That's part of maturing.
Right. And then if you look at, I said this at Denver this year, and there was the naysayers around there, and I said, the kid can ride. And then you look at his size and the strength in his feet, and I got to thinking about horses' mentality. Imagine if Rocker climbs on your back or Orrin Larson, right? And you're a horse. And I jump out and I've got the horse mentality. I feel this little, right? He's a little guy on my back, probably barely feel his butt on my back. I feel him hitting my neck and I'm like, oh, I got him, one jump. Nope, he's still there. And Rockers, you can watch him harness that energy, right? He's got it. And throwing his feet. And from he makes every horse look great. If you heard Wade Sankey talk about Mustard, and what these names, the winning bull, they won the round on and then Mustard. We'll talk about that later, but come on. There is Google out there. But anyway, let's call it South Point or Coronado's or something. But anyway, he's light. He makes these horses right. They can have everything they want. And then I thought, well, if I was a horse and Orrin Larson gets on me and he's got 65-foot legs wrapped down around, you know what I'm saying? I probably perform thinking I've really got to get it hard here, right? This guy's
There
big.
are definitely pros and cons to the different body types in the Rest Talk events, especially. I also thought I got up extra early to write a story about Rocker just because it was on my mind and I couldn't sleep. But I included a photo that I thought was a sweet tell of elation and just sweetness. This hug between Wade Sankey, Mustard's owner, and Rocker last night after that ride, and Wade Sankey was thrilled that his horse drew Rocker Steiner, and that's how that shows off a great horse to have somebody like him on him. And anyway, there is a lot of showmanship in the rough stock, and free arms and all the rest of it. But it was a great showing.
And Rocker's starting to get. So I'm sure when you're wakeboarding and you're a world champion, there's a different way to be popular than if you're a world champion bareback rider, right? And I think we're seeing like Wade. That is a representation of our culture. Generational stock contractor has no problem telling you what he thinks. And as Rocker starts to evolve and make friends and succeed like he's doing, all this hullabaloo is going to go. It's going to go away.
Yeah. Well, should we go along to the steer wrestling?
Let's do.
Stan Branco won the round last night. He was 3-9.
Why is it that I have zero history in my brain about this gentleman at all?
Stan?
Yeah.
Oh, so one of my cowgirl heroes when I was a kid was Sammy Thurman. And when I'm a kid, the one and only, you don't, thousands and thousands of women team rope now, but you did not see a woman entered in the team roping in a professional rodeo except for Sammy Thurman. And she roped at Salinas, of all places, the ultimate team roping rodeo with her dad, Sam Fancher, who was a cool old Indian cowboy. Sammy Thurman, world champion, barrel racer, Hall of Famer. That's Stan's grandmother on his mom's side. And on his dad's side, Stan's named after his grandpa's brother, so it'd be Stan's great uncle, Stan Branco, the first Stan Branco. But Dan Branco, Stan's grandpa on his dad's side, NFR team roper. And Stan's uncle, Steve Branco, everybody calls him Pooh. He's a NFR header, team roper. So there's a lot of high school and college rodeo with Stan's dad, Larry, and they're a great family. And Stan has been here one other time 10 years ago in 2013, and he won the 9th round. And hazing for him here is Dirk Tavener. So, Dirk's one of the steer wrestlers here, but it's a typical example of cowboy camaraderie amongst the steer wrestlers who are renowned for that. Most renowned, maybe, in any event. So,
well, that portion of this program was brought to you by Ancestry.com. Wow.
No,
the
but
amount of stuff in your
cool,
brain is scary.
My computer chip is full.
Wow.
That's part of being older. But
hello, Ancestry. We do take sponsorships.
But also cool on the camaraderie side, because the Bulldoggers are renowned for the camaraderie, is the fact that Clayton Haas is here on the world famous hazing horse, the big gray Metallica that belongs to Tyler Pearson. Tyler Pearson's not even here in any capacity, bulldogging or hazing, but he sends his best horse to haze for some guys, and that.
Yeah,
that's
cool.
how Bulldoggers roll. So
Tyler's one of my favorite. Now, what's Oates saying about the cattle?
Oh,
Well, we've got the legends, Kurt Blake and Flint Rasmussen. If you guys want to get out your note cards and see how to do it, just stand around. Or you might want to get some news for your show today. You can get it at No Spin Rodeo.
There you go.
Okay.
Photo bomb.
Funny guy
Uh,
goat. Funny guy goat.
Kurt sent me a text this morning that said that if you're going to pretend you're an insider, you should be winning fantasy. Whatever. if that creep up jealousy keeps going, they've got gummies for that. All right.
See ya.
What is Oat saying about the cattle, the steers?
Well, Oat's of the mind that it doesn't matter what they run in there. You still need to stay up over them. And Oat, as I sit in the stands watching, because that's my best seat for most of the rodeo, is sitting there with him. He claps for the guys, whether they win or not. He claps for the guys who stay up over their feet and do it right. And when you finish a run like that, that's when they get those airplane flat falls.
Right.
Not the timber slow.
Yep.
And so he's like, it doesn't matter if they're 300 pounders, 500 pounders. It doesn't matter. Score, get out of the barrier, catch the steer, and set your feet, step over them, and if you do it right, you'll be faster and win the most. He's old school that way, but it seems to be true.
Yep. Stan moves up to 7th. He's won $40,000. Congratulations to him. Let's move on.
Another back-to-back situation.
Yep.
Clint Summers and Jake Long strike again on with the help of the old tried and true horse transmission, who's 19 years old.
Isn't that incredible?
It's really awesome.
I mean, and you watch that horse, Greg. I don't know if you notice any of this, but you watch that horse. I look at their ears, right? That's how. To me, that's to their heart. You just look at him in the box. It's like, it's kind of noisy in here. Let's just go do our job.
So I was raised by, my dad grew up on a ranch, veterinarian, timed eventer, and he's a horse doctor by trade, and he's 85 now, but he's always said, a good horse is a good horse. And I'm betting that a horse like Transmission, you could have used him in any event, maybe even run him in and bucked him.
Yeah.
Who knows? But a good horse really is a good horse, and the good ones in every event, including the rough stock, they love their job. And so this guy is like, he's like a teammate on their team. And I did get a kick out of Jake Long going outside of his box, going a little Rocker Steiner with the tie-dyed shirt last night. That was in honor of his hippie uncle who died in August.
Oh.
And so that was pretty cool. And now because the first night he felt maybe wearing the tie-dye was disrespectful after the tragedy, and people were wearing red, and so then when he won the round, he's like, oh, I really wanted to do that, for my uncle to win a round in his honor. So now he wins it in the shirt, and now he's like, gosh, he's got people saying maybe you should wear that every night, but it's not very Jake Long. He's not usually Mr. Flamboyancy, but
Jake
those guys
Long,
have brought it to him. That's pretty cool. There were, I don't know. There are always things that I see. I guess we should move to the next event. But there were things
these
like
2X's, the aggregate, right? When you win 2 rounds, now you got to be thinking about consistency for the run.
It's interesting because you see it every year. It's like, well, or do you? Because the guys who've, the Jake and Clays and the Speed and Riches, what they say is if you get out of the barrier, that shot right there is actually easier than if you're late and you get, you try to be conservative, you back off.
Yeah.
It's more unforced errors are more likely to happen if you back away.
I don't think you quit winning or trying to win.
You got to stay aggressive.
It's a mess. This is so mental, like with any sport. It really is for everybody. Roughies, timies. Yep. It's a mental game. And it's interesting what all they're dealing with, those back-to-backs, right? Staying, keeping it between the lines, right?
Staying
Happy
loose
balance.
and cool,
Yep.
and just continuing to be aggressive and sharp.
Yep.
That's the play, because that's going to win you money in the rounds every time you draw good enough to do it, and it's also going to keep you hot and heavy in the average. The bronc riding, I don't know Tanner Butner. He won the round. Do you know him?
I do. He's very ranchy. Met him. I will say that was an unbelievable set of bronc horses. Like, they bucked guys off because they bucked guys off. They didn't cheat. I love a pen of broncs like that, right? Fantastic action. My favorite part of the rodeo. Good kid. It could have been a split-second turn to the left that set him back in the seat. But what the horses, just beautiful, amazing.
Strong.
Yeah. Just, like, I can sit there and watch those horses buck all day long because they're just beautiful.
Yeah.
And guys, and if you stub your toe, right? If you do one thing wrong, you're not going to recover on those kind of horses. Right. And you saw that over and over again.
Right. And I also enjoyed, there was a strange thing. I'm not sure what exactly happened, but one of the judges saw something very different on opening night with Lefty Holman. Last night, Lefty, basically did the same thing he did the first round, but he got a good chunk of the money. I got a kick out of, while we're talking about tie-dyed shirt for Jake Long and Rocker Steiner's Fashion Flair, Lefty Holman cracked out some white boots last night.
I thought I saw that.
And what I'll say about this, Lefty is from perhaps the most fashionable family in all of rodeo.
Did you see what he had on in the back number?
Yes, I did. And by the way, his wife, Haley, not only has she built them a house with her own two hands in Hawaii this year, but she makes all their clothes. And, okay, so...
She makes the clothes.
She makes the clothes. Lefty, so that family... So Dakota Eldridge is the steer wrestler. His wife, Quincy, same part of the family from Rodeo Quincy. Lily Hay, who's married to Dawson Hay, same part of the family. Clayton Sellers is married to Lefty's sister Billy, the bull rider. Annie Rose Bigelow is Annie Rose Seifert. It's part of the same family. I mean, it goes on, but guess they all go back to Mustang Sally Marvel Freeman, as in the Battle Mountain, Nevada Marvels, Joe Marvel Hall of Fame bronc rider. And also cool is that Lefty's grandfather, who taught him to ride broncs, John Holman, used to travel with Chris Ledoux. I mean, it goes on, but there's this collision between new wave fashion and old rodeo ranching roots. It's pretty cool.
It is cool.
And Lefty and Rocker are dear friends, by the way.
Yeah.
And they give each other more shit than anybody.
Yeah.
And so they can take it.
You can see that on the back of the chutes. Lefty's one that supports Rocker. I've seen it. Yeah.
So since
you called it on Caleb Bennett.
Caleb Schmidt.
Caleb Schmidt. Sorry about that. Caleb Schmidt.
Listen, you pointed out yesterday that I was the literal cellar dweller in the Tattoo League, Fantasy League this year. And part of me was like, oh, shoot, I went with my heart instead of my head or whatever. But I have two words for you today. I haven't looked at it.
I did.
The standings. Did I move up a little bit?
Oh, you moved up, and I moved down.
Okay.
We're side by side.
You shouldn't have roostered it after the first round. But anyway,
I shouldn't have.
But my two words for you after last night are Pockets and Liza. And that's, Caleb Schmidt and that horse. I mean, he said that in round one, he kind of got left, he got left behind a little bit. And
a little late.
He's like, Pockets thought we were scoring him out there, at the roping fiesta in San Angelo. But he said that might have been the first time ever that I've been mad at this horse. But, they rebounded last night and stuck it on a black calf like Caleb and Pockets do. And, I watched that guy and he's so quiet. And, but there's so much, as with every rodeo family, like behind the scenes, like the connections, with Caleb and steer wrestler, NFR steer wrestler Rowdy Parrott are married to sisters from the Byler family, and Tyler Wagasback, who's a absolute, big dog contender for the bulldogging buckle every year. Oat and I were at Tyler and Sarah Rose's wedding in Louisiana a few years ago, and the same night, Will Byler and his bride Bailey, Will Byler being Caleb Schmidt's brother-in-law, they got married the same night in Texas, and they died flying in a helicopter away from their wedding, and that just brought us all to our knees. Like, that was a devastating. The rodeo family will always suffer for that, but there's something about high grounding. There's something about that family has a tremendous inner strength, and Caleb came back that year, and all of them were holding God is still good signs, and he struck again for another gold buckle, but there's like a peace, because the perspective of something like that happening in your family,
puts perspective.
That'll
in life.
change things, and also another tie right there is that Rowdy Parrott's brother Remy is here hazing for Tyler Wagasback, and also for Jacob Talley. Like, how connected are we all?
Very, very, very connected.
It's cool.
Well, he's, Riley. I'm following Riley. I've known Riley for a while. I like him, and the calf roping is very interesting. Like, it's now. Like, this, what these guys, there's so many interesting different personalities in that group, right? And they're all pretty close. And Joe B's take on it is always, I think his take on it's good. He's very, very, the things that he brings up, even on the broadcast, I think he's a huge asset. And so I find it very interesting. With Caleb coming on, turning the corner, I don't know. I just want to see what Riley ends up doing. I really thought this second one, right, that he was really going to, who knows? I guess we'll see.
He's got some great horsepower, and to me, if Riley Webb gets out of the barrier, he stuck it on one at the back end, as we noted, in the first round. It's like,
yeah, but he's
the kid's a machine.
Twice.
Yeah, but you know what?
Twice.
It's just, surely he'll be pissed off tonight.
I just thought last night he would hit it. Just like Caleb, right? I figured this would really be it. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, in the barrel racing, it was Stevie Hillman. I thought it was interesting that Emily Beisel was top of the ground last night in round 2, and she got off of Chongo after hitting, Chongo's her ace, and she got off of him after hitting 2 barrels the first night and got on Liza, which is the horse that she won Sioux Falls on, and did really well. But the big overall comment, even my Bulldogger Oat sitting next to me, he's still talking about it. Every single girl was under 14 seconds last night. Like, the groundskeepers get an A++. It was
fast.
It was crazy.
It was fast. For early fast. It was fast.
And stayed that way consistently for the whole set. Girls did really well at the very bottom. That's as good of a across the board. I mean, there were barrels hit, but
there were mistakes made. But when you run 15 runs,
yes,
championship
but
runs, that's
most people were 13 seconds, and that's very, very cool. In the bull riding, I also don't know Canadian Jared Parsonage, who won the round last night.
That kid can ride.
Clearly,
for real, he's the real deal. And the bulls, I thought, were even, right? It was an eliminator pin, right? But I didn't feel, as even as you can get. Okay, there were some that were more eliminator, right? A little quicker at their tricks.
And let's just, holy moly, I don't remember that I've ever been in person to see the Bull of the Year Pete Carr's Bayou Bengal.
Yeah.
But he breathes fire. He slammed Josh Frost last night. Like, he flexed his muscles. That looked
I don't know. I don't know. Normally, I can kind of pick apart after all these years of watching bull rides after bull rides. The way that bull comes out of the gate, the way he pushes off of his back end, someone's going to have to figure out the body position to get through that first, because no human
It was
sitting back, right?
the
It's gonna make
strength.
that. Yeah.
The strength is insane, and so there were only 3 qualified rides in round 2. Kai Hamilton, third out of 3 rides, with 78 points, but he would not say die. And before the week's over, watch that, like, he's off, out of shape. Just, he would not let go. And that grit and try, it will likely show up later in the week when we start looking at, you start looking at gold buckle races.
And that goes back to what you said a long time ago. Don't think that these cowboys aren't mathematicians. He knew. They know when they get throw how many guys are thrown off. They know, do I need to stick my spur and hang off the side here and make this work even though it's ugly? So when you start to think these cowboys are just a bunch of cowboys that nod their head, that was a good example of knowing the deal, right? Because it would have been much safer, probably a much cleaner decision to not sit there on the side and get to 8, right? I mean, from a save your body perspective, because you never know what's going to happen. Listen, when you get over there and you got that iron on the other side hooked and those bullfighters are looking at the situation.
It was all heart. And so on the bonus points for the performance, Cody Ohl, dropping the banner for Cody Ohl as the second of this year's NFR icons after Billy Bauer was recognized on opening night. For me and so many people, Kid Rock's Cowboy song will always be the Cody Ohl song. And 52 victory laps in the Thomas and Mack speaks for itself. And I do make comparisons of, how did I put it, the adrenaline emotion cocktail that Cody Ohl ran on, which people loved and hated him for that also. But you don't make 52 NFR victory laps without a little heat like that. And he probably shares that mix with Rocker, I would say. I thought it was cool. The trick riders, we were talking about older horses being cool.
Yeah, the little horse was like 120 years old.
32 years old, reminded me of my boy's childhood pony, Starbright. Precious. I think those little girls, they're the Navarre family, and Corey Navarre was a PBR bull rider, and his wife Melissa is a Riddle. Her mother is a Butler, as in the stock contracting dynasty, and so those 3 little girls were precious, but rodeo royals. Here they come for the next generation. And I'll say, completely outside of the arena, I thought it was pretty cool tell of how cowboy people are. Last night, a guy at the complete opposite end of the aisle from where we are, all the way down the row, he orders 1 beer, a Coors Light, and he passes a $100 bill across a row of 30 strangers. We all pass his beer. He passes 100 to all of us, and waves at whatever tip, and then we all pass $87 back, all the way across the row without a thought of it. Nobody's going to take the money, right? And I think, what? Cowboy people are pretty cool.
And so and I'm interested to see if Greg saw anything. So my little anecdote, interesting thing that I almost took a picture on, but I didn't know if it was legal. So I'm crossing the road from the Grand View, coming over here this morning to the South Point. I always cross the road the same time, that road back there. And there's a car parked, sunlight, beautiful. And there's a decked out young lady, right? You can tell that 24 hours ago, this is exactly what she put on. And she
specializes with evening work, not a day job.
She had been partying, obviously, but the funny thing was she was as sprawled out. And I'm like, oh, that is kind of the emoji, right, for a lot of these people on the next morning in that car with sunlight on her, out like a light, purse kind of hung on her head and literally, I think when she sat down in the car and closed the door, that was it, lights out. But so I thought, well, I'm going to take that's interesting. And then I noticed saliva, a good portion of saliva, mouth drool all over her rhinestone shirt. And so I thought, boy, this is kind of a morning after Vegas emoji.
Sounds like walk of shame implications.
I mean,
but
just taking a nap.
On
Hey,
a
safety.
serious
She wasn't
note,
driving.
Okay, on a safety note, on a serious note, because we all laugh and what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas and all that. But I don't remember the last 3 to 5 years. There was a serious thing that happened in this town during the NFR, and there were women. God bless people who come to town for the NFR, and think that this cute girl they've never seen before has a crush on him, and then they were getting drugged and robbed in their rooms, and it was happening all over town. So on a serious
Not
note,
just robbed, they were having kidneys removed. You remember that?
No,
right?
yes, yes.
Like that's a little
Serious.
more than taking their
yes.
$100 bill. You wake up and you're in a bathtub of ice and a note that says call 911. You're missing a kidney.
And that really happened. That's
I
not a
know,
joke. And so
I know.
since we are a rodeo family and we talk about everything from, fashion to too many concussions, whatever it is, seriously,
well,
young men, old men, whoever you are, really be careful and be smart out there, because this is not losing a kidney is not a joke.
yeah, and the flip side of that for young ladies, be careful how neon your open for business sign is. I mean, I get it, right? But it's a scary world.
Yeah.
And you're not always safe. Be cognizant. Be aware of your surroundings. But, pay attention to what you're wearing and where you're wearing it, and be careful.
And maybe, stay with friends and not.
Yeah.
Don't get straight out on your own.
Don't go behind the dumpster and, So, well, real quick, just to change it up a little bit, and then we're going to get out of here. A long day. We always got a lot of rodeo to talk about. Greg, I'm interested. I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
So Toby Keith is going to play at the MGM Grand. This is for some of you that don't have rodeo tickets but are concerts. And hearts out to the people in Nashville with the tornado. I don't know if you kind of local news, but a big tornado went through the Tennessee area, loss of life.
Yep.
Prayers for all those people in Nashville. Toby Keith, 10th, 11th, 14th at MGM. Garth Brooks at Caesars, 13th, 15th, and 16th. I may see my old boss, Randy Bernard, around here, I bet, if Garth's coming into town. Carrie Underwood, 13th, 15th, and 16th at Resorts. Miranda Lambert, 10th, 14th, 16th at Planet Hollywood. Rodney Carrington, kind of a staple at MGM Grand. And then I'm going to go across the board. There's a young man, grew up in Weatherford, Texas, really good friends with my son, Chase. His name's Wynn Williams. If you want to hear really good music, Texas country, known Wynn since he played baseball. Good kid. He's going to be at Stoney's Rock and Country tonight. So, Greg, if you had to pick from that lineup, who would you buy a ticket for?
Miranda Lambert.
You're a Miranda Velvet Cowgirl, is that right? Isn't that her show?
I mean, I've seen them all, and she puts on one heck of a show.
Does she? She's got energy.
She came to the NFR as my guest one year and sat with me, and we visited through the rodeo, and she seemed to really...
Yeah, she's straight.
Country girl.
They can jam. They can rock.
I'm going to go see Toby Keith with Donna because we had him at the PBR over Thanksgiving. I don't know if you were with us. We were in Austin, and I met him there, and just a huge man. And then went through cancer, and nobody can question that Garth Brooks puts on a show.
Yeah, I have another wild card, rocker-esque concert to add to the mix, and I don't remember the name of the hotel. It starts with an H, Hanasakan or something I don't know what it is. Don't know the date either. But here's a wild card for you. There's a girl. She goes just like how Jewel just went by one name. She goes by Rossi, Rossy. I don't even know what kind of wild music. I don't even know what you call it, the genre or whatever. But she's flopping her hair, and it's wild, and people are screaming and on their feet and going crazy. Well, guess what? She's Billy Bauer's niece.
Really?
Okay, so Janet Jones, California Girl, is her mama. Janet Jones was married to Dan Bauer, Robert and Billy's brother, and they have a daughter, Rossi. Rossi, she's not a country girl. I mean, she's got a lot of cowboy blood in her, but she does this wild...
Well, what's
the
music
very
type?
Popular. I don't know what you call it. It's like where
Can you sing a song?
No. There's no singing. It's loud.
There's
and
no
screaming
singing
and hair flying, and it's not
we need our no
cowboy
spinners.
world. But I'm telling you, so that, talk about diversity within one family. Billy Etbauer literally couldn't even stay up late enough to like, he knew coming in. He just had pins put in his hand or his wrist or something. But so we'll let him get out, but he's not going to stay up past midnight anyway to go. But pretty cool that
I need to know what kind of music
her last
she
name
plays.
is Etbauer. Well, you'll have to Google
So,
it.
no, I want our no spinners out there. If you're listening, please help us do a little research. We're both running.
It's not country.
It's not country. Well, I'm running right from here to the Golden Circle of Champions. We're a sponsor of a young lady, Dixie, battling through pediatric cancer. She's brought in with her family and 15 other rodeos and 20 other kids over at Tuscany for the banquet. Then they all go to the rodeo. So if you see the yellow bandanas, that's in support of bringing awareness to pediatric cancer. It all originated in your home state. Tina with the Santa Maria Rodeo is a bold lady that steps hard and forward to promote this, and we need to
The
support
Golden
it.
Circle of Champions is really, really cool. And my son Taylor just joined this team, agtrucktrader.com team, and part of the team is their concept is that everybody on the team picks a charity, and then they're working to give stuff back. And Taylor's pick, after he's been here a couple times in the tight end roping at the NFR, the Golden Circle of Champions Day is the most heartwarming, amazing. The Cowboys might love it even more if it's possible than those kids. And by the way, when Taylor was here a couple years ago, the kid and his brother that he was matched up with that day, they had a blast, such a blast that then the parents, a month later, our circuit finals was in Red Bluff over New Year's Eve, and those people came, and that little boy wore his tie, he wore his neckerchief, and he had his Go Taylor sign, at the NFR and then at our circuit finals, because now we're family friends.
Right.
It's so cool.
There's so many people touched by cancer. I remember at the World Series when we did it at our rodeo. You wore something if you're touched by cancer. I'm a cancer survivor. It's incredible how that disease touches so many people, and the fact that it touches youth and babies. And it seems like when it's real to you, then it's real to get involved. I just want to encourage everybody to get involved. It's awareness. It's recognition. It's support. Get out there and support them. Support these kids, and because what they're going through, get perspective.
I don't think I know a family that it's some branch of the tree has not had to go through cancer. But when you're talking about kids.
It's not fair. It's not fair. It doesn't make sense. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of No Spin Rodeo right here at the South Point Hotel and Casino. Come in here. Check this place out. If you want to experience real cowboys, come to the South Point. Great tables, great games, great fun. Thank you, Mr. Growney. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Again, right here in the hallway at South Point Hotel and Casino. Good afternoon.